Well, I've come to Doncaster in the county of Yorkshire, and this is the Hyde Park Cemetery. Directly in front of us you can see the chapels of rest, and over here is the war memorial. No names on that, just to our memory of those soldiers and sailors who gave their lives. Now, a little further in, you can start to see the very large number of large memorials, typical Victorian and Edwardian size stones. If I come back up here by the chapel, you can see a lot more. Now, the chapel is no longer used as such, and I'm noticing just inside the gateway they have been converted to apartments. I think that would suit me ideally. Go down here towards these memorials. There's a very tall one in front of me. We get an inscription from it. And this one is Joseph Wood, who fell asleep 18th of February 1904, 76th year. Only good night, beloved, not farewell. Now, there's a lot of memorials very close together. Difficult to know really where we should start on these. Let me make my way across to the next paths. Okay, let us walk up the path and I'll just show you the memorials as we walk past and pick out one or two where the names are obvious. Now, this one I think has lost a column. Very sturdy base. That's Joseph Stenton, 1860, and underneath another Joseph Stenton, 1875. I'm looking at the one with the white background. Rose Elizabeth, the wife of Richard H. Hodson, 1898. Another Joseph Stenton in front of me, and again a second Joseph Stenton. On the whole, these are in pretty good condition. There's one toppled there, a couple there, but mostly they're still standing. Probably means the ground is very firm. Well, that one's gone over, that's sad. We can see behind Thomas Aldam, 1862. So we're looking at 160 years ago. Carrying on down the path. There are equally the same number of stones on my right as you're seeing here. Now, I'm seeing that very elaborate one, the very tall one. Let's just see if it gives us any interesting information. And we've got a couple over here. Looks as though they've been laid down because considered unsafe. I think the inscription is probably around this side. Well, that's quite an ornate monument. And when I come down here, it's Mark Clough, or Clough, of Doncaster. He died in could be 82, aged 60 years. Work my way back up. Nice and easy to read. Charlotte, daughter of William and Maria Hazelby, 1866, age 8 months. An angel took my flower away, yet I will not repine, since Jesus in his bosom wears the flower that once was mine. A very Victorian epitaph. And then next to that we've got William Henry Ray, who died in January 1859, aged 3 years and 1 month. And then his father, who died only 35, and mother, who was only 44. And beneath that, the more of her children, aged 6 years and 8 years. And then at the very bottom, Richard Johnson Ray, who was killed near Sukim in Egypt in 1885. There's quite a story on this stone. A lot of deaths before their due time. Now I head across the path. This is very clear. I'm reading it from a long way away. It's got a bit of a tilt. Mary, the wife of Christopher Batty, 1881, aged 82. And then the said Christopher Batty, he died in 86, aged 88. Well, the inscriptions are very clear on the stone they've used here. Joseph Reeder, William Richmond, ornate one for John Morehouse, Robert Haig, a rather nice angel in this one, for Maud, the wife of James Mellor. On the right is one in white, Frank, the dearly beloved son of Ernest and Sarah Wilson of Encliffe, Walmsworth Road, Doncaster, who died suddenly in 1918, aged 17, and that may be a half. Got the sounds of a siren from the road nearby. It's almost non-stop in these cities and towns nowadays. Lucky today though we don't have anyone mowing the grass, which seems to plague my videos. There's the one for Annie Kemp, the wife of William Kemp, 1926. It's tempting to read quite a lot of them because they're so clear. George Patrick, 1866, age 35, and the tall one is Harold Arnold, who died at Apley in Lincolnshire, 1882. Some interesting designs here. The William Dale, very ornate on the top. Daniel Dale, a different design on top with a timer, sand timer. And this one, very heavy on the top. George Hardy of Nether Hall, or at least his wife. I wander through here, I notice a war grave in a rather grey stone. This is Pilot Officer W. Wells, Royal Air Force, 1944, aged 22. Just wander between the stones. They've kept the grass down so it's very easy to walk. George Capita, 1884, aged 55. Another war grave here in a family plot. C. Martin, Royal Army Medical Corps, 1917. And as I get to the far end of the graveyard, they're thinning out and less imposing. And this end, a lot of them have collapsed. This must be, the ground is softer here. That one at a crazy angle over there, and that one, this one gone. If there's no one to maintain them, if their descendants have moved on or died themselves, then who's going to look after these plots? The normal length of life of a burial plot, according to something I'd read recently, is 25 years on average. After that, there's no one to come back and maintain them. And some of these are 130, 140 years old. Let's pop this one. This is Frederick, the beloved son of Joseph and Caroline Louisa Churchill, 1895, aged 1 year. And Robert Winston, their son, aged 3 years. And then William, their son, who was accidentally killed near Red Bank, 1910, aged 18 years. A child who promised well lies here, who by his friends was loved most dear. But God sees it is for the best to take him to his heavenly rest. Well, let's move on. You see more of them, more and more of them. They're now broken. It's just a factor of the poor ground in this end of the graveyard. Well, I can see a war grave over on my left, standing out very clearly. So let's walk in that direction. See the way these white stones stand out from the rest. By no means the biggest stone, but viewable from a long way away. And this one is Sapper H. Dixon, Royal Engineers, 1921, aged 33. And sadly we see these ones collapsing. I'm surprised this one is still standing because it's such a crazy angle. Let's record it. Bertie Jackson, aged 4 months. Also Effie Wade Rubin, aged 35 years. Albert Edward Jackson, aged 28. And then you at the bottom there you've got Ada Jackson and Robert Jackson. But that stone won't be standing for many more months. Now we'll walk up this path. We're right at the far end of the graveyard now, and we'll gradually work our way back to the very big ones we saw when we came in. A very bright sunny day today. Rather difficult sometimes to get the camera angles. There's a little entrance to the graveyard here at the far end, and I notice another war grave. Got flowers on it, so somebody's still coming and paying this one attention. T.J. Clark, Suffolk Regiment, 1917. So well over 100 years since he gave his life. Someone is still attending to that memorial. Now if I look back into the graveyard, I shall wander back through this area and pick it up as we get nearer the bigger stones. This is an interesting war headstone to Private S. Bell, the 6th Reserve Regiment of Cavalry, 1917. It's a fact that a very large part of that First World War was fought with men on horses. Quite unbelievable today, but hundreds of thousands of horses, maybe millions, perished in that first war. I'll just turn around so you can see the faces of the stones. Looking back now towards the far end of the graveyard. I'll just pick out the one in white here with the young lady, no wings, so maybe not an angel. Anyway, in ever loving memory of Florence May Greensmith, the daughter of George and Sarah A. Hoyes, 1922, aged 32. That's a very nicely carved stone. Well, I'm back here amongst the larger tombs. Not so easy to make our way through them because they're very close together. I'm working my way towards the one with the tall white angel on top. I don't know whether we're going to be able to reach it safely. A devoted wife and mother, Martha Adams, 1940. Relatively recent. And John Wood, 1963. Come round this way so you can see the angel clearer. That certainly stands out rather nicely. This large table-like tomb lies at the junction of the path in a very large plot. It would have had iron railings around originally. I notice it's from the aristocracy. Sarah Elizabeth Lady Morley, the beloved wife of Sir Isaac Morley, a knight of Beechfield in Doncaster. And then he himself follows. He lived from 1801 to 1879. Very prominent position. Now if I come down this slope here, we're coming back into the very large ones near what used to be the chapels of rest and are now apartments. I'm looking at a very distinctive white one in front of me. These must have cost a lot of money in their day. It's surprising though that having spent so much money, they didn't set up a trust to maintain the memorial for the next 100 or 150 years. Perhaps they just weren't thinking that clearly about what could happen to these things and how their family may die out or move away. Well, I'm not seeing made clearly on that side. Round here I'm seeing John Waller, 1830 to 1876, and Harriet. If I move round, I see Amelia, the wife of John Waller. So it's the Waller family. And that one, the panel, has fallen out and is lying on the ground. That's not going to last very long down there. And here are some bits of stone that presumably have fallen off the top of the memorial. So its days are numbered, unless the Waller family turn up to renovate. Now they're all facing away from us, which is a bit of a nuisance. I'll go up to that tall one in black and then turn round. It's not easy walking here because there's a lot of curbstones and everything's very close together. And that one also, its plaque has fallen off. Mary Brooke, 1877. Let's turn around and show you the face of these stones. So a once very grand cemetery. A little bit past its best now, but still of great interest. I did notice that as we swung round, there was a war grave just down here. Oh, amazing how they get tucked in. And that's from 1918. Private C.F. Brooks, King's Own Yorkshire Light Infantry, age 29. And I couldn't go along without including this one. Here she is, the sorrowing widow, leaning on a post, hand against her forehead. At the bottom we can make out William Septimus and the name Elizabeth Lewis. Or maybe Elwis rather than Lewis. Yes, it's Elwis. So William Septimus, and that presumably is his forlorn wife grieving over his death. Some nice carvings on these two. Here we have a figure on their knees in front of the cross, and this is William Downes, and alongside it we have a female clutching the cross, and that's Frances, the wife of Philip Garner. This one is Sarah, the wife of the Reverend Edmund Oldfield, a Wesleyan minister who died in great peace, 1876, aged 58. Well, I'm going to close at this point. Amongst the big older stones, there is a lot to see. It's not all in terribly good condition, but the stone they use is easy to read, which does help. But a lot of them are in decay and falling over, so do come, but maybe sooner rather than later. Till the next time.